welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, presented by Coors Light. Go from full-time to game time. Coors Light, made to chill. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. I'm your host, Wayne Lou, and as I want to do these days, I want to give you the whole rundown because I just want people to know what they can expect for the next 2 hours. So, first off, co-host Blake Murphy is here with me on this ride the entire time, but this is what we have for you today. First off, we want to talk about just the Raptors. Blake wrote a great piece about 5 trade candidates that the Raptors may look at, and these teams may do these deals. Whatever, we'll get into the details.
I didn't even get into the specific actual trades, and it's Pelicans fans still got mad, and then were mad later in the day that Trey Murphy, who is untouchable and already a superstar, was riding the bench for most of that game last night against the Grizzlies, most of the closing stretch at least.
Yeah.
7 points in 21 minutes, but he's untouchable. Who is the OG?
My biggest takeaway is that there are Pelican fans because I don't see them in the building. But it's okay. We'll talk about sort of those ideas, essentially who the Raptors could potentially target. Exactly. Then we're going to take a break. We're going to get to Marc Stein, check in with him every Wednesday, talk about the league. He's down at the G League Showcase, which is maybe Blake's favorite event.
I wish I was there, man. I missed the days when it was in Mississauga.
It was actually really fun when it was in Mississauga. So maybe we'll do some G League Showcase reflections as well. Then we're going to take another break. Blake is going to be talking to Shareef Abdur-Rahim, who is the president of the G League, at 3 o'clock. That's going to be awesome. I think most people just remember him for being, with the Grizzlies, Vancouver Grizzlies back in the day. But I'm really curious to see what he's doing and sort of his vision for the G League. So I know we already got Adam Silver. This is, I suppose, not the next step down because that's Mark Tatum, but the next step down.
It's G League Adam Silver. Yeah. It's also, we're gonna do a little prehistoric part 2.
Oh,
just talk about the Grizzlies and press him on Vancouver expansion.
That's exciting. And then we are gonna come back segment 4. Adam Mares, who covers the Denver Nuggets, is going to join us because the Raptors are playing the Nuggets tonight, and we'll get to know not just the Nuggets main players. I'm sure we'll ask him about Jamal Murray, ask him about Nikola Jokic, but I really want to get to know this next generation of Nuggets players. They got a lot of prospects on their bench.
Peyton Watson time.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Peyton Watson. We'll talk about Christian Brown,
Julian Strawther,
these kind of types, and get a sense of sort of who else the Nuggets have, because everyone already knows essentially the top 7 or 8 from watching them win the finals last year. But anyway, this is a long. Just shuts the pork belly. Blake, how you doing, man? You good? This is a long intro, but
I'm good. It's a long intro, but there's a nice G League thread through a lot of it, in that some of the guys that we're going to talk about on the Nuggets side were G League standouts like Peyton Watson. We can. We also, we joked about the Pelicans a little bit. There was obviously nothing Raptors-y that happened yesterday. They were off. They play the Nuggets tonight.
Yeah.
But we got a couple pretty good games last night. Spurs, Bucks, whatever. Suns losing to Portland, whatever. But we got a great nightcap in a game that went to overtime and had you texting about the Celtics being frauds in the group chat. That was the nightcap as Golden State beats Boston in overtime. But the big one was Ja Morant's return. Pelicans against the Grizzlies, which I think at the time when Ja and Zion were drafted, we thought that maybe that would develop into an individual rivalry. Maybe these were 2 teams on the upswing. It's been a little delayed to get to that point because of Zion's injuries, because of Ja's disciplinary matters. But we finally got to see it again, and it came down to literally the very last possession with Ja Morant. First of all, jumping up and down, frustrated, not wanting that timeout after they come down with the rebound. So Ja wanted to attack in transition. And then as he told TNT after the game, once they'd called the timeout, the only play they were running was run 12, which is Ja string him out in ISO. He has Herb Jones on him, who's a pretty good defender, a lot of length. Maybe you could make the case that Dyson Daniels is a better, point of attack on a point guard defender. But either way, Ja breaks down Herb Jones, drives one way, spins back the other way, lets a floater go over Herb Jones's arm here and Dyson Daniels' arm here with the rear view contest.
They literally high-fived each other. The 2 defenders high-fived each other as Ja spun underneath
and then
for the game winner.
Bounces off the rim and in.
Yeah.
What a game.
Yeah, what a game. First off, bring a new definition to the term call 12. But yeah, no, seriously, it was look, I think Ja obviously has a long road ahead of him in terms of just in the short term, getting the Grizzlies from so far under 500 into like anything relevant in terms of the standings. Obviously, the Grizzlies are just really sad. Honestly, they've had so many injuries. They've had him being suspended. They got a long hole to dig themselves out of. But also the bigger picture is just it affected his reputation so much, right? And it's something that obviously it's his own doing. But like you even saw after Ja hit the game winner, had this great return, everyone's joking about, hey, don't let Ja Morant go on IG Live after the game, which is a funny thing. But it's like this is gonna stick with them for a long time. But to me, it was just awesome to see Ja Morant, the basketball player, return to the floor. Number one, it gives you another watchable team because the Grizzlies are flat out unwatchable when Ja's not playing. They are just so hard to watch. It's Desmond Bane kind of playing 100 miles per minute, making a lot of mistakes, taking, honestly, a lot of bad shots, making some, but, not enough. Jaren Jackson Jr. is already kind of a little bit of awkward offensive player. Like, he can certainly go off and he can shoot. But
his 40 pieces this year have been the weirdest 40 pieces you could see, man.
Exactly. There's not an aesthetically, pleasing value to that. I mean, the rest of the starters yesterday was Bismack Biyombo and, God, who did they even start at guard, man?
Vince Williams Jr.
Yeah, Vince, cool. But, it's just they had – the whole team is unwatchable except for Ja coming back. And, I mean, we all knew that it was going to take maybe a little bit, and I thought his three-point shot wasn't there for Ja, and he looked hesitant to take threes, but he is just able to get downhill at will against a Pelicans team where maybe some of their parts don't look that good defensively, but individually they got lots of great defenders,
and
nobody could stop Ja.
They will get more guys back. Like maybe it's probably going to be too late for Memphis, but Marcus Smart could return on Thursday.
Yep.
Luke Kennard's injury is not expected to be too long. Derrick Rose is week to week.
I mean, he's not going to play too much if
those other
Smart
two guys are there. But if one of those guys comes back, Luke Kennard, not a huge role, but a little bit of shooting.
They need shooting
that
on
they
this
could
team.
really use it. They're not going to get Adams or Clark back. At least we haven't heard an update on Brandon Clark since the start of October.
Yeah.
So, and we know Steven Adams is done for the year. I do wonder if they could, we got about 6-7 weeks to the trade deadline. I think they're one of the more fascinating teams in that if they just go 500 with Ja, so they stay 12 games below 500, I do wonder if they become a mild seller of just look, it's not this year for us. An expiring contract, that Derrick Rose type, we flip that and take a look the next year. Now, obviously, they're very young, so you wouldn't do that with too many pieces. But if they go on a little bit of a run here and start getting into play-in territory, at least where that's within striking distance and everything looks good around Ja, I do wonder if they're a team that would look at the fact that Bismack Biyombo and Xavier Tillman are their center rotation right now, and their entire center rotation, and they look at maybe fortifying that spot with one of the centers available, because you see pretty quickly with Ja how quickly the other pieces snap into place, right? Jaren Jackson's place make more sense. Desmond Bane goes from being overextended as a number one to a really nice secondary offensive attack guy.
I like him.
And he didn't even hit the three that well last night, but he's been the entire offense during this time. So, you get Marcus Smart back, you maybe get Luke Kennard back. If they go on a run, you say, hey, let's upgrade that Biyombo spot, move Biyombo to a bench role. I don't think that anything could happen where they're super aggressive. But they are, I think, a swing team where these next 6 weeks could push them in two different directions.
Yeah. I'm curious to see that direction as well. Quietly, I feel like their development pipeline isn't as robust as it was.
They have lost a lot of guys. A lot of guys that just left for nothing or got, part of a trade or something like that.
Yeah.
They've just... Right. I don't know. There's a brain drain to that, and they've actually still been a team that still hits on guys, right? Like Desmond Bane is a really good find and probably should have been taken 29th overall. Obviously, Jaren's a top pick, so that's that. But Santi Aldama is a rotation player. Xavier Tillman's a rotation player. Zion Williams is a rotation player. John Conchar probably better off as a 12th man energy guy, but a playable guy. It's just they were hitting at such a high clip on these guys. And when those guys leave and you kind of replace them with nothing, or you trade away picks or whatever, it gets really tough to kind of maintain that as we've seen in Toronto.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of it is just, they're suffering from success. When you are down, and they were obviously in a bad spot for as a franchise. They traded Marc Gasol, that kind of kickstarted the whole thing. They traded Mike Conley as well. And then the grit and grind Grizzlies, they were bad for a couple of years. That's how they get a Jaren Jackson Jr. That's how they got Ja Morant with the second overall pick. But then when you become a winning franchise, all of a sudden you're picking lower. Yeah, you can get like a home run like Desmond Bain, but sometimes you got to sort of figure out what the rest of your draft prospects look like. I think on the other side for the Pelicans,
underwhelmed.
I'm often underwhelmed when I watch the Pelicans because I like and I individually rate so many of their players. Every game it looks like, somebody for them is typically going off. Brandon Ingram, I thought was excellent yesterday, 34 points, 11 of 18, 11 of 12 from the free throws. JB was also quite good. Took him out late in the game. Big decision for, Willie Green, but, he was cooking before that, 22 points, 9 of 12 shooting, 14 rebounds as well. But, they just didn't have any answers defensively against Ja.
Which is tough because they're supposed to be a team. Like, obviously.
But he was only driving to the basket. Like, I think a more creative coach could have done something different to scheme that away because that's all he did. Even the last play of the game, he went to the cup and scored.
Here's the thing, though. You saw that last play of the game.
I did.
And, like, not only does Ja have great footwork on those change of directions and great touch around the rim, he's like a 99.9th percentile athlete, even by NBA standards. Like, that ability to string a defender as long and as agile as Herb Jones out and just like burst past him and then spin back through the help, like that is ridiculous. That is something very few guys can do. Like, that's MVP level athleticism. So obviously we're not putting him there yet because he just got back. But he was averaging 26, 6, and 8 last year before he went down, and that was that's really without a 3-point shot. He'll take it as a hey, you went under because you don't have a prayer fighting over a screen against Ja. I do think, look, if these teams played again in the next little bit, you'd scheme that a little bit differently. Maybe Dyson Daniels takes, more of the share of that. Like Herb Jones, the way he played last night, 30 minutes, probably a little bit too much. You could have shifted that. Like Dyson Daniels.
Kind of a nothing on offense.
Yeah, Dyson Daniels only played 13 minutes too. And
also
he's like theoretically that's the problem with playing him is he does gum up the offense, but he's, I think, probably your best point guard defender. Maybe you do that a little bit differently.
I would just trap him. I would trap him and I would let the rest of the Grizzlies beat me 4-3.
Yeah.
Because the Grizzlies can't beat anybody 4-3.
Yeah. I mean, Desmond Bain and Jaren Jackson with that little bit of extra space, but you'd still rather them do it. Totally. Like you'd rather make the team that is 7-8 or 6-19 before last night beat you 4-3 than have Ja beat you 5-5.
That's easy to say.
Yeah.
It's also like, look, man, I mean, if CJ McCollum didn't like airball and then like get only glass on 2 pretty open looks down the stretch, we might be having a different conversation. But
I do want to ask you about Zion a little more specifically, though. So, I mean, he finishes the game with 13 points and 4 assists. He only played 25 minutes, a little bit of foul trouble. They lost his minutes significantly. Like that Zion and bench unit,
where he's the center,
absolutely caved in. And some of the minutes came with Cody Zeller, but they got caved in. So that's tough. And we've seen the Zion at center minutes have a decent defensive rating this year, but by the eye test, just like not look stable enough. There was a stretch in the third quarter where I don't know if he got all 4 of his assists in this one chunk of the game, but he was making crazy passes. The level of vision there is incredible. With Ingram or McCollum handling, his ability to either slip a screen or, if one screen goes into a second screen, to cut off, if he's the initial screener, to cut into the paint where, he still has that burst and you're not going to be able to defend him at the rim. But it really does seem to me, at least, and I wonder how you feel about this far into Zion's tenure, they're still trying to figure out where he fits and how best to use him offensively.
Oh, yeah. That's my takeaway almost every game watching him. Now, I understand that like part of this is like the fitness concern, and this has been like beaten to death to the point where it's almost uncomfortable. Like,
I mean, like that explains why he's playing 30 minutes a game instead of 36 minutes a game, but it doesn't really explain why, on a game last night, you can go away from him for entire quarters at a time. Like you've got good offensive pieces, but you don't have a good enough offensive team to just not go to Zion Williamson, or like even if he's a screener or a decoy, right?
Well, I think part of this is just like the Pelicans roster construction is that like they don't have great like connectors. They don't have great like they have guys who can definitely create advantages and maybe pass out of them, but like CJ's looking to score. Ingram is very much looking to score. JV is a guy you give the ball to him so that he can score. Their bench guys are largely hustle guys who come in and supplement. It's like kind of ideally what you want from a bench.
Dyson Daniels could maybe like not a level connector, but like he's had some games where he's 5-6 assists, and he's the 2 pass away connector guy, which is still
but that's not the main distributor. Right. Like it's like so I think. Naturally, the best passer on the team is Zion, so you're going to need him to play make. I don't even mind him playmaking, but it's just like you need to have like that clear, consistent focus. Like I don't know why they don't set more ball screens for him, for example, to get him that head of steam, because he is terrifying when he gets that quick head of steam, and like it results in games like this where he has 13 points and he gets criticized a lot. But like when you look through his box scores, it's not that, you know, he had 15 against San Antonio. He had 13 in the game where they lost in the play-in tournament to the Lakers. He had 10 against Sacramento, 12 against San Antonio. Like these things happen for him, and it's because he's not fully like. I guess they don't fully prioritize them, but I mean, whatever. I mean, there's other issues.
This is also like it's a team that has Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas, who, you know, you're not going to retool the offense around what Jonas does well, but it's notable that you have that center in your lineup, who we know is a good finisher and a good roll man, and you have Zion Williamson, who yes gets used as a pick and roll ball handler more than the screener. But a team with those two guys should not be 29th in using the roll man.
Oh yeah,
like they're 29th in possessions finished using the screener, like passing to the screener and having the screener finish. You know how many plays Zion Williamson has finished this year as the screener? 4.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
On the year.
Unbelievable.
And like, look, he's up there in terms of, you know, how often for a forward he runs the pick and roll, but like league wide, he's not even like at the league median in terms of so they're not using him a ton on either side of the pick and roll, but almost never as the screener. It's a little bizarre to me for a team with him and a team that has Jonas, who when Zion sits, you could see him running a lot of pick and roll. When Zion's on the floor, they could run pick and roll if it's a non-Ingram lineup. It's just weird to see them. I guess it's just weird in 2023 to see any team not use the pick and roll a ton. Like we just saw the Hawks twice in a row, and every single possession down the floor is a pick and roll.
Yep.
And then the Pelicans are just kind of like, no, we like our 3 one-on-one matchups.
Yeah. I'm happy Ja's back. Real quickly, just the second game was also great. I thought the Warriors were just dead the whole game, and the Celtics were playing with their food.
What did you call it in the chat? The fakest close game of the season?
It felt like a fake close game the entire time. It was like, oh my God, the Warriors have, you know, rookies on the floor. They have Corey Joseph on the floor. They have like, you know, Dario Saric and Chris Paul. Like Chris Paul looking so washed. It's actually, it physically hurts me. I don't even like Chris Paul.
Corey Joseph was the best Canadian in that game, by the way.
Oh, wow. That's really tough. But yeah, Wiggins is really struggling, and he was struggling last night too. But somehow they were in this close game. I mean, somehow is that they have Clay and Steph, and other guys did step up. And I think when you looked at the final possessions, the Celtics had literally every open opportunity you could possibly ask for, and they squandered every single one of them to the point where the Warriors were able to get into overtime. And at that point, you could just tell that the coolest person in the building was Steph Curry, who made an assortment of great plays. But obviously, everyone's going to remember that rainbow, that absolute rainbow where Chris Paul found him with the cross-court pass. And Steph, I mean, like, it wasn't even like he was open, because Derek White was just there right on him and a bigger defender. And he also made a great contest. It was also late shot clock. And Steph just managed to shoot the quickest shot. I think Assad tweeted this on Twitter. It was like, how is he still fast in slow motion? That's how quick his release was. And he not only did a quick release, but he literally shot it to the moon. It felt like twice the distance of the backboard, and it fell through perfectly for the dagger. So, I mean, credit to the Warriors, but damn, I got a lot of questions about what the Celtics are saying.
Yeah, like that's a elite shot maker shot. My question would fall more in how do the Celtics come away with a 5-minute overtime against a team that's as shaky right now defensively as the Warriors, with only 5 points in overtime. Like they went 1 for 4 in the restricted area in overtime. Obviously, you brick your jumpers, whatever. It's the end of a long game. Maybe you got tired legs. But yeah, 1 for 4 in the restricted area is pretty ugly.
Well,
a couple turnovers.
This point was made a couple of times, but Steph was in foul trouble for the whole game. He got 3 fouls. He had to sit in the first half. Then he picked up his 5th foul, and then he had to sit for a lot of the fourth quarter. When he returned, you have Steph Curry on 5 fouls, and you have Chris Paul on 5 fouls. And I'm not saying that it's a layup line against those guys, but you have to find a way to get downhill, to put pressure, and when you especially have great wings like Jaylen Brown, like Jason Tatum, even like Derek White, who had a great game yesterday until he bricked every single 3 at the end there. Like, you got to find a way to get downhill more. And that's my biggest gripe with the Celtics. It's just like, this is going to hold them back. They don't have that mindset to go to touch the paint as nearly as possible. Maybe it's because they're so good at threes. They just feel comfortable, like, oh, this is a good shot. I'm going to take it. Reminds me a little bit of the Rockets, though, back in the day. Even though what they had, this team has more ball movement.
It's tough, too. Also, like Boston is playing 2 point guard size guys in Drew and Derek White. But part of the benefit of those guys is, like, they defend positions up, right? So you don't feel that small. And then your wings are Tatum and Brown. That's it. That lineup against them had Steph and Chris Paul on the floor. Klay Thompson, who is not, the 3-4 checker that he once was defensively. And look, I like Trace Jackson Davis. I thought he had an awesome game. I think
he was great, man.
I think he's probably going to start some games soon, given how shaky Looney's been and obviously Draymond's absence. I've got time for Looney. I like Looney as a guy, but he's struggled lately. But yeah, you got to be able to find more spots in that defense than, hey, we're going to take jumpers over these point guards.
Yeah. And whatever. I'm sure you ask Joe Mazzulla, who is very prickly, as we know, he'll be like, I'll take those open shots, 100 times out of 100. Those are wide open shots.
It's probably true.
But, I mean, at the same time, it's just you had a great opportunity to potentially foul out Steph Curry. You had a great opportunity to even foul out Chris Paul, which I don't even think Chris Paul was contributing that much. But you tell me who I want a close game with, Chris Paul or Corey Joseph.
I mean, the young guys had been shaky enough that they went away from Pods for a big chunk of that game. He only played 16 minutes.
Pods hurt his back.
That's why he left.
And so he left right before the end of the first half.
Okay.
And so he seems like he's going to be okay. He says he's young. He's like, I'm good. I'm ready. And he was very happy for the team. But yeah, I mean, you had a great opportunity. But I mean, the funny thing with the Celtics, when you look at the stat lines, is okay, so they took 58 threes. They only made 17.
58.
First off, making 17 threes is enough to win, but not if you take 58 attempts, because that's still 29%. It's unbelievable.
And the
Warriors
made 17 were 20 of 50.
The Warriors were 20 of 50, which, I mean, listen, I mean, Steph and Klay are obviously better shooters than pretty much everyone on planet Earth. But when you look at the individual stat lines, it's I get that these are open shots, and I get that he was hot to start the game. Derek White taking 18 threes is just not appealing product.
No.
That's cooked product. What happened to the game I love when Derek White shoots 18 threes in a game?
Okay, so I have, one statement to make and then a question for you.
Okay.
So in addition to Trace Jackson Davis, I was very, very happy to see Neemias Keita get a double-double on that. He is, for anyone who doesn't know, the first player from Portugal to ever play in the NBA. Yeah. Cambridge, where I'm from, is a heavy Portuguese population. Nice. I'm not Portuguese, but I keep an eye on him, and I like to see that happening for them. However, the fact that, he played 21 minutes. They basically ran an 8-man rotation. And I know they were without Kristaps Porzingis in this game, and that's probably enough to swing it.
I mean, he's the guy who would actually attack mismatches and actually play in the post, which is the funniest thing.
Yeah, and then you don't have to play Al Horford 1 minute for every year old he is, playing 38 minutes. Is dropping Porzingis back into this enough for you, or do you still kind of feel like Boston is one bench piece shy?
They're probably one bench piece shy. I don't really see how they get there. There's not big contracts I see on their bench really that you can even make that happen. They kind of took a lot of flyers on the Raptors flyers.
Yeah, so they got and Banton and O'Shea Brissett,
and they had Champagnie, I think.
At one point, they cut him.
So that's
he's with the Heat's G League team.
Right. He's in Sioux Falls, or I guess he's in Orlando for the G League Showcase, which we'll get to. But I mean, yeah, I just don't think that those guys hit for Toronto. I don't think they're quite hitting for Boston either, in terms of, especially for a team like Boston that wants to go to the finals. Yeah, they probably need to add one more guy. But I mean, even still, you look at even Keita's a success in this game. He was just getting downhill and bully balling guys, and I do feel like they're missing that element. Or they can just have some of their wings or guards play. I feel like I see Drew Holiday playing more in the post than I do for some of the other guys.
Yeah, but Drew Holiday at this stage in his career has gone full Kyle Lowry, where he thinks he's a power forward.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of is half the time, but yeah, I don't know. It was just funny to see the Celtics lose, and it's always great seeing Steph, man. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about the Warriors too, and it's why we've talked about them so much for a 13 and 14 team. Is they're an entertaining product when they're good, or even if they're not good. If one of Steph or Klay have a lights out night, it becomes really, really fun, and we missed that aspect of it. We also missed talking about my article because we got a break shortly from Marc Stein. I guess we can come back to it after.
You know what?
It's not going anywhere.
We will come back to it because Blake identified 5 potential trade candidates. Those names are Trey Murphy III, Jalen Johnson, and Manuel Quickly.
Their names are.
Exactly. Jaden Ivey and Andrew Nembhard. And we actually have another 2 to discuss. So we have 7 guys we can run through.
To be clear, the point of this article wasn't necessarily the Raptors should go trade for these guys. It's trying to identify guys like Shea and Halliburton who, yes, everyone liked. They were lottery picks. They had all rookie-ish for seasons, but they were not anywhere near the level that Shea and Halliburton would become. Now, some of these guys that we looked at won't get there. Some of these guys are maybe already on their way, like a Jalen Williams from OKC, who I left off the list.
Man.
Trey Murphy is maybe already on that side of it, given what he's done offensively. But the exercise was more about like, hey, if you are a seller at this deadline, the Raptors or anyone else, that's the type of guy you're trying to identify. A guy who, the other team is not going to be like, yeah, I have him for free, but a guy who you think can develop that next level. And obviously, the way a headline gets done, the way people consume things online, it was just like, oh, people consumed it as the Raptors should trade for all 5 of these guys. That was not what the article was.
It's okay, man. You really can't, like, once you put something out as content, like how people receive it, how people repackage it, how people digest it is not within our control anymore. So we're going to take a break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. When we come back, let's call up Marc Stein. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, William Liu. Joining us is NBA insider Marc Stein, and this NBA insider is presented to you by Coors Light. Go from full time to game time. Coors Light, made to chill. Marc Stein, what's going on, man?
Gents, I'm good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm a little jealous of everyone down at the G League Showcase here this week. So I got to ask, Mark, if we were ranking G League Showcase locations, Orlando, Mississauga, Las Vegas, what's getting top of the table there?
Well, this will actually surprise you guys. I love Toronto so much that I was very fond of the Mississauga Showcase because I got to stay in Toronto. It was close enough, and if it was up to me, they could park it there, and I would be thrilled. I am a Vegas guy for sure. I love going to Vegas, and I definitely love going to Vegas in December compared to July. But like I said, I don't know that many of our colleagues here would vote this way. But if it was up to me, we'd be back there.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, Mark, just because you're on a Toronto radio program. It's all good. No, I'm kidding.
It's 100, but it's a zillion% true. Like I said, I might be the only media guy voting that way, but it is a true statement.
All right. Well, no, I remember going to the G League Showcase once or twice when it was in Toronto. It was actually a great opportunity. I was a much younger journalist at the time, and it was a great opportunity to get to speak to a lot of people. You just honestly just randomly walk up and you're like, hey, that's Anthony Parker, former Raptor. To me, he's a former Raptor, but it's like, oh, he's actually managing the Lakeland Magic. Let's talk about that. Let's talk to Kendrick Perkins, who I think at that time was 2018. He was actually still trying to get back into the league potentially at the end there before transitioning them to media. But it was actually great to talk to Perkins. He was a super nice guy. He didn't know me at all. But, yeah, Mark, for people who don't know what the G League Showcase is like what's the deal there? Because we've been kind of teasing this idea of, like, front offices will be all there, and they're maybe going to have some discussions to come out of that, potentially with some traction on, deals or whatever. Can you at least give us the 500-foot view of, like, what is the G League Showcase?
Yeah, so the G League Showcase, basically the whole G League is here, all playing at least 2 games. And as a result, every NBA team sends its front office here because in 4 days, you can literally get a look at everybody playing in this league multiple times. And so it's obviously valuable to teams from that perspective, from the scouting perspective, but this is not an event open to the public. That's what makes it different than Summer League. Summer League is in July. There are more transactions happening while Summer League is happening. That's also an issue, but Summer League has become such a big deal. Summer League draws such a crowd in Vegas that you see it's gotten to the point that, if Masai Ujiri is talking to Rob Pelinka on the baseline, a zillion videos suddenly hit Twitter of, oh my God, Masai and Rob Pelinka are talking. Here, because the public is not admitted, there are a fair few number of journalists here because it is a great networking event for someone like me, again, because of that FaceTime. But yes, look, the trade deadline is a little bit less than 2 weeks away, but it is a chance for teams to get face-to-face and have conversations and go to a hotel away from here, out of view of the whole gym, and have discussions. So agents are here, team personnel here, a lot of media here, and it's just games all day. So it's the NBA's version of the winter meetings, except the winter meetings, there's a lot of deal action happening, and that really hasn't started yet.
Yeah, that reminds me of my biggest maybe reporter miss at Summer League one year, where I saw Masai and Sean Marks go off into like a side tunnel talking, and then like an hour later, the DeMarre Carroll salary dump trade hit the wires, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, wow, they're just probably like having a conversation. They didn't want to be in earshot. I should have chased them down. Mark, so obviously we're going to talk mostly about, the trade side of things as we do on this show, but I'm a big G League guy, and I do wonder, the G League showcase as it shifts to this kind of winter meetingsy thing, and it's more of a tournament format now where there's actually a winner crowned, which wasn't always the case in the past. For the actual G League players, I look around, and with teams having 3 two-way spots now, some NBA teams having sent a 4th or even a 5th player down for this tournament to get reps. How much of the term G League showcase is actually still true versus these are just games as like a conduit to have everyone in one spot? I wonder if, with how many NBA players there are down there, if it's not showcasing the actual G Leaguers quite as much as it did in the past.
No, I think there's definitely something to what you're saying here. It is harder. It's just the romantic story of player X who is just on a G League contract and not on a two-way and plays so well here and can launch himself into an NBA career. There's no question that is tougher now. There are 3 two-way spots on every team. The last time I checked, all but one of those two-way spots was being used. And again, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I hope I don't have my facts wrong here, but I think the only team that wasn't using all 3 was Phoenix, because they don't yet have their own affiliate. I think Phoenix just did fill that spot. So it's like every team is using its two ways. And, you get a situation where like Indiana sends Jarris Walker down here. And of course he's, a high level draft pick who's going to be featured if he's playing for the G League team. So I think you're totally right that, it's harder to kind of, maybe the showcase opportunities are somewhat diminished, but that said, it is still a gym full of NBA eyes. And so, for the players, it is still an opportunity. I mean, we just saw, Lance Stevenson come back to the G League because, he knows that, 30 teams will be watching these games. So, he wasn't in the G League previously this season, and now he's with Minnesota's team, Iowa, because he knows that this is his chance to audition for a bunch of teams. But it's also a really interesting vibe because with no fans here, the players have to create their own energy. That's something that has always fascinated me about this, that, you can probably hear the remnants of music that's playing during stoppages here talking to me. They do have a sound system, but like there's no crowd. It's all just observers and gossipers and people networking. So that does, I think, make it somewhat more challenging for the players. Like where does their energy come from?
Yeah. Even during the broadcast yesterday, I was watching the 905 game and flipping a couple others. Like during a commercial break, there's just nothing. It just shows you the camera of an empty gym and there's almost no sound.
Yeah. You know what? That's fine. It's just a great time for evaluation, because I remember, again, going back to when I was in the G League showcase.
Back in your day.
Back in my day. My day being 2018, this is a showcase. I remember coming away from it and it was like, look, just from my eye test of watching the games, the 2 players I would have advised teams to sign was Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. This is not revisionist history. I think I even wrote it down at that time. But like, you actually can get to see some quality. Of course, I think at the time they were already tied to teams. That the Caruso was on here on the Lakers, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's talk about the NBA side of things. So, Marc Stein, you wrote in your
just to give you guys real quick though, just an ounce of live action.
Okay.
Just to show you how much I love the Raptors show. Daryl Morey just walked into this little side room that I'm in that I tried to find a little bit of quiet to talk to you guys, and I wanted to put the full court press on him, but no, I'm staying with the Raptors show instead of chasing him down. So I just want to let you guys know that this incredible opportunity I'm forsaking to put the full court press on an NBA G.
Put us on speakerphone and get Daryl in. Get Daryl in here.
You're like, what do you want for OG and Pascal? Let's talk about it right now. All right, we're going to talk about NBA teams of interest. So you put in your latest newsletter that obviously Toronto, Chicago, Utah are generating curiosity from rival teams. We've kind of talked about Toronto and Chicago quite a bit. Utah's a little bit interesting to me, but you also added that Atlanta should be joining this group. And I'm curious, in what ways Atlanta joining the group? Are they a seller or are they going to be a buyer? Because they're obviously below 500. They're disappointing. But at the same time, I get the clear impression that they want to win. So what are you hearing about Atlanta and what can we expect there?
Yeah, look, I think they hired a win-now coach in Quinn Snyder, and they really, they were very aggressive to bring Quinn Snyder in last season in late February because they wanted him to get some time with his new team, kind of a bonus, almost not quite 2 months, but a bonus 8 to 10 weeks of seeing what the Hawks have and, which ways he might want, which ways as an organization they might want to go forward with his input. But make no mistake about it, they brought him in large part because they were hoping that he was going to lift Trae Young to, a new level and form the kind of bond that Quinn Snyder had in Utah with Donovan Mitchell. And they had a really tight bond. I frequently told this story. I remember covering a Jazz Mavericks game in Dallas one time, and another reporter and I were talking to Quinn, and Donovan Mitchell came over to basically interrupt the interview and to give his coach a massive post-game hug after they had beaten the Mavericks. And, that's not a typical thing. So, I think the Hawks made their coaching move in hopes that Quinn Snyder could form the same kind of relationship with Trae Young. And look, Trae Young is still producing at a high level, but the Hawks are well under 500 and have to be in the conversation among teams that have ranked as a disappointment so far this season. So I think the expectation is with the Hawks is that, they need, assuming that they are a team that is looking to make moves, I don't think they're a sell it all and strip it down kind of proposition. I mean, I think they're in search of the best complements to Trae Young that they can find. So Trae Young and Quinn Snyder have the proper cast that surrounds them to really go somewhere. I mean, I think that's Atlanta's goal.
What do you think about the Cleveland Cavaliers situation, Mark, where obviously Atlanta, they kind of occupy a tier with Toronto, Chicago, and Utah as these, they're not good enough, but they're not all the way at the bottom kind of teams. They're kind of their own middle tier. And Cleveland is 3 games over 500. They would avoid the play-in right now, but they obviously just suffered, a fractured jaw in Darius Garland, a longer-term injury to Evan Mobley, and there have been rumblings that, hey, Donovan Mitchell, who's a free agent after this year, you gave up all those assets for him. You can't be all that sure he's going to re-sign at this point. Is Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs situation another thing that, potential buyers around the league are keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, no question. No question that a lot of people are looking at the Cavs and wondering how they're going to react to this injury situation, because I wrote about this Monday on my Substack as well that, look, I don't think, I think it was, pretty well known in coaching circles that JB Bickerstaff was starting the season facing as much pressure really as any coach could because of what happened in the playoffs. The Cavs had this tremendous regular season, 51 wins, and then lost really meekly in 5 games in the first round to the Knicks. And because of what you talked about with Donovan Mitchell, this is a thing that needs to gel and needs to work because the Cavs are trying to sell Donovan Mitchell on committing his long-term future to Cleveland. It hasn't happened. And now I do think the injuries actually ease the pressure on JB Bickerstaff, because how can he be expected to, get this team back to a 50-win level when he's missing 2 of his 4 main guys? But, I mean, there's no question that around the league and when you're talking to people at an event like this, what is Cleveland going to do is definitely one of those questions that comes up, because the clock is ticking and Donovan Mitchell hasn't given any indication that he's ready to commit his long-term future there. And that's, I don't think anything happens in the short term. I don't think anything is happening on that front as we speak. I would imagine, again, this is purely my unofficial forecast, but I would think that they would go through this regular season to try to give it a chance to work, because, we've seen when the Cavs play to their potential and when they have a full complement of players. They had the best defense in the league last year. So I don't think that they're looking to break this thing up tomorrow. But if the Cavs don't find success this season, I think that talk is only going to get louder because Donovan Mitchell would basically be, one summer away from leaving at the end of this season.
Yeah, it's and it does seem like if he's going to end up anywhere, the two teams in New York would be possible landing spots for him. But I'm also curious too, because one name that's I think new to this situation is Lauri Markkanen with the Utah Jazz. What are you hearing about Lauri Markkanen in particular? Because it seems to me that that's a young big that's obviously already very, very good, all-star level that can contribute and fit in seamlessly in a lot of places. And if he were available, I'm sure a man like Danny Ainge can get quite a few assets back.
Yeah, I wrote about this. I want to say it was Thursday night. And the way it was described to me and talking to multiple people who have had their eyes on this situation is teams are going to test Utah's resolve on Lauri Markkanen. The feeling, I think, around the league is that Utah does not want to trade him. But, again, teams around the league are watching this situation. Utah has been, they have not been as competitive this season as they were last season after trading away Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And so Lauri Markkanen, and he's on a very team-friendly contract, so our team's going to try to test their luck and see if Utah would entertain offers for Lauri Markkanen. I think it has already happened to some degree, and I think it will keep happening between now and the deadline. But I think you also have to look at Utah and say to yourself, they had a very high price. The price tag was really high in trading away both Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. They got a lot of assets in both of those deals, a lot of future draft capital. So you can imagine that Lauri Markkanen coming off an all-star breakthrough season and with a very team-friendly contract, the Jazz, if they got to the point that they were willing to move Markkanen, and that's not clear at this juncture in late December, they would want a ton for him.
All right,
and
Mark.
Any team going to be willing to match that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, especially if the asking price is quite that high on big shotgun Lauri Markkanen. Mark, before we let you go here, we've kept you almost long enough. You asked your readers in your latest newsletter at markstein.substack.com about, hey, if this is the end of 2023, what are your favorite memories of 2023? This is your last hit with us for the year because we're not on air next week. What is your favorite memory of the NBA 2023? Or I guess it doesn't have to be NBA. You're a well-rounded person. It might not be NBA. What is your favorite moment of 2023 here?
You know what? Here's the honest answer. I still am drafting up my list and kind of deciding. I don't know that I have a clear-cut choice on it yet, but I'm so glad that you guys brought this up because I hope that means I would get a submission from one or both of you because kind of the whole point of my exercise was instead of me just making this is Marc Stein's list of his 5 or 8 or 10 favorite basketball memories from 2023. I like to do it community style on my Substack, so I've invited readers to hit me with their favorites, and I've started to get a trickle of those. But like I said, I would love to be able to feature a nomination from either of you guys.
All right, well,
both of you guys even. So
say less. So, we will be in your inbox. Don't worry.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, this NBA Insider is presented by Coors Light. Go from full-time to game-time. Coors Light, made to chill. Marc Stein, appreciate you, and have a happy New Year.
And besides, aren't we on next Wednesday? Isn't that December 30th?
No, we are off next week.
We are off next week, but, if you hear anything from Bobby and Masai, just call us immediately, all right? I'm sure they're down there.
I can neither confirm nor deny whether I've spoken to them.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to read your Substack then.
As soon as I get something, you're my first call. Okay.
I'm dead serious about that. I would love to know. All right. Pivoting away from this conversation, back to the Raptors in particular.
Well, I have one follow-up for you on what maybe your most, and I guess we're off next week, so we can't do like New Year's stuff necessarily. Yeah. But I just saw the news that Messi is going to play here in October.
Yeah.
How high does that rank on a list for you of like things you're anticipating in 2024? Like, obviously, I know it's later in his career, but like,
I don't care
for him to play in Toronto.
As the Kylian Mbappe meme says, I will be there no matter what. No, but seriously, I've actually
past that.
I've already had conversations with friends who have season tickets, and I've arranged it in advance.
Okay.
So
the TFC show
and
with
this is
William Liu.
3 months ago, I think this happened already. So this is well a year in advance. But yeah, that's going to be super exciting. It'll be a hot ticket. Lionel Messi, please do not miss the game.
Yeah,
or be
I guess
injured,
my
please.
other question is, if this was known a while ago, why is Uninterrupted Canada just like tweeting about it now and like putting out? Because he is playing in Montreal and Vancouver too. Were those known as well?
No, I did not know that.
Okay, that's so Montreal May 11th, Vancouver May 25th.
Okay, I might have to hit my connects in those cities as well.
May 25th. I don't know. Is this team going to be playing still? You might be able to get out to Vancouver. I know you like a little West Coast trip.
No, man. Honestly, Canada's got some great cities. Yeah, it's always great to get around. Okay, you're not going to get around talking about this list that you have. So Trey Murphy the third, Jalen Johnson.
It's something we can do anytime between now and February 8th, right? It's just
know.
Yeah.
I know, but you wrote the piece. I want people to read the piece. It was really comprehensive. I read it when you dropped. I read it again for preparing for this segment. Out of those 5 guys, if there's one guy that you think, if you had your pick in terms of these 5 players to pursue, out of those 5, and again, the 5 are Trey Murphy the third, Jalen Johnson, Emmanuel Quickly, Jaden Ivey, Andrew Nembhard. If you have to say one of these guys is going to become a future All-Star, most likely to become a future All-Star.
Trey Murphy.
Okay,
I think he's on that track. I really like the offensive package. There's a little bit of shooting there, obviously. Now, not a lot of self-creation on threes, but the data we have so far says, hey, this guy can knock down a shot. He has been a little up and down defensively, as you might expect from a third-year player, but he has a 7-foot wingspan, which we know this team likes.
This guy Raptor
like 6'8", 6'9", with a 7-foot wingspan, but he can shoot, so that's the difference.
Yeah,
and then there is just like, as far as wing players go, a really tremendous nose for being able to get into the paint, whether it's as a cutter, whether it's as an offensive rebounder. Like he is already a high-end play finisher.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of how that stuff is going to scale, yes, we would need to see him self-create a little bit more. That's the biggest determinant of, can a really good offensive player become a great offensive player? It's like, okay, well, when it shifts from Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum are creating your looks to you're creating those looks for yourselves and others, that's the biggest question mark in terms of, can a guy's skill set scale? I think it's why Jalen Williams' year so far this year has been really, really encouraging, because it's not just feasting off of Shea stuff. It's creating stuff on his own, leading units without Shea. That would kind of be the next step. But I think I have him in a tier above these other names, and a big part of that is why, Pelicans fans were kicked to be like, you're not getting Trey Murphy, even though, he is not playing in crunch time sometimes, and offensive pecking order wise is probably 4th on that team.
Yeah, I guess the path for him, because he's not real. He's way more athletic than Mikal Bridges.
Yeah,
who is already a pretty good athlete in his own right.
But, I mean, he was in the dunk contest last year.
Exactly,
like
he's that level of athlete. But that's kind of the path that I think he would maybe need to get through to maybe see if he can become a number 1 option. And I don't think he becomes an All-Star. Well, I don't think he becomes an All-Star in the current setup of the Pelicans. I think unless he significantly makes a huge skill jump himself, I feel like he's one of those opportunities where it's like, you need to give him even more of an opportunity to run his own system, kind of like Mikal Bridges is doing in Brooklyn right now, to get that kind of recognition to become an All-Star.
Yeah, it takes a little bit for that stuff to scale. And then of those other names on the list, I think Andrew Nembhard is probably the most logical in terms of, hey, where could the Raptors make a trade? What fits? Because he is behind Nembhard there, and then they have Buddy Hield and Benedict Mathurin as well. Nembhard, I don't think, has the upside of these guys that we're talking about, but I do think he could do more than what he is there. And then Emmanuel Quickly, there are cap scenarios we'll get into over the next couple months where maybe you could make an RFA play for him if you go a certain direction at the deadline. Sorry to talk so fast. I sound like Willou outro.
It's all good, man. I just want you to feel that heat, that pressure from Derek in the ear, pressing like Andre Onana. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. I've been your host, Willou. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on Sportsnet Radio Network.
Welcome back to The Raptors Show. I'm Blake Murphy. William Liu stepping out for a little bit. Momentarily here, we will be speaking to the president of the G League, Shareef Abdur-Rahim, who you may also remember from his time with the Vancouver Grizzlies as well. Maybe we'll pick his brain on what that experience was like. He made the all-rookie team that year, eventually had an all-star appearance as well, but that was after he left Vancouver after spending 5 years there. And unbelievable Iron Man stretch. He played 5 seasons with the Grizzlies and only missed 3 games over the 5 seasons. Pretty impressive stuff. We're going to talk to him, of course, about the G League Showcase and the G League in general. The G League Showcase is going on right now in Orlando. We've talked to you about it a little bit. So while we wait for Shareef, let's do a little Raptors 905 update, because when we've updated them in this space before, they have not been positive updates. The team has had a really tough go so far. Yesterday at the G League Showcase, they beat Sioux Falls, who are the affiliate of the Miami Heat and had 4 Miami Heat players on their roster. They beat that team 129-110. So that improved the record to 3-12, which is obviously not very good. But you're starting to see now that guys have gotten back. Marquise Noel's back. Justice Winslow is finally playing. Mo Gay is back. They've acquired Jonte Porter. You're starting to see the vision a little bit. They've won 2 of their last 3 games against some pretty good teams in Delaware, who are the affiliate of the 76ers and the defending champs, as well as Sioux Falls. Probably the headline item down with the 905 has been Jonte Porter. He's put up some pretty terrific stat lines. He had 23, 15, and 6 yesterday in just 21 minutes. He's hitting the 3 well. The passing is obviously there. I got asked a couple times on Twitter after that game, what do I see for him as a potential NBA role? And, right now the defense needs to get up to speed a little bit. He has good instincts on that end. He's blocked a lot of shots for this team. He had 3 blocks in 21 minutes yesterday. The team's defensive numbers have been better with him on the floor in this small sample. But mobility wise and scheme wise, he's going to have to, improve a little bit in that regard. On the offensive end, if he can stay healthy, I think this is pretty clearly an NBA offensive skill package. He's a guy who, yes, can shoot the ball. He wasn't shooting it particularly well before the 905 acquired him this year, but he has shot it really well since coming here. He shot about 40% on threes last year in the G League. And, the shooting maybe for a big man is more of you have to have that as a show me weapon of sorts. I think with him, it is beyond that. It's an actual thing where you'd look to get him pick and pop opportunities or those Marc Gasol kind of trailer and transition opportunities if he's the last man back because he was in drop coverage or deep under the rim on defense. And I think the biggest thing that stands out with Porter, both as a prospect overall and in terms of his Raptors fit, is this has always been a player with a really good offensive feel who makes a lot of good passing reads, very, very comfortable in the high post at the elbow extended, running those kind of dribble handoff actions that the Raptors have made pretty central to their offense. So if you picture those situations where Jakob Poeltl is receiving the ball and then taking a one-step dribble and a screen into a handoff for someone, or even a keeper situation there where, he takes it himself, dribbles a couple times and looks for the next read, whether it's a cutter or a reset up top. Porter's really comfortable in those situations. Again, I think owing to the fact that the feel and the playmaking are both very high. So that's something to watch. He's with the Raptors now on a 2-way contract. They're not going to rush this. They have Jakob Poeltl starting every game. They have Precious Achiuwa and Chris Boucher in the rotation. They have Otto Porter and Jalen McDaniels who they could turn to. But I think, especially offensively, Porter is a guy who could chip in as a depth big at some point this season. And then I think if the Raptors can continue to develop him as a defensive piece and at least get him to, a stable point there. And again, the instincts are good there. The shot blocking is pretty good there. But, defending in space-wise against NBA pace and space offenses, you would have some concern. But I think, this is a pretty nice find. Jonte Porter's a guy that I was high on back as far as the 2019 draft, where, I had him when the Raptors picked 59th. He was top of my board. I went back and found some tweets. So obviously a guy I've liked for a little while here, and nice to see him healthy and finding a groove with the 905. The other standout with the 905, and I'll mention Marquise Noel. I think all of you have an idea of what Noel brings to the table from summer league, from early preseason stuff. Yes, he's undersized at 5'7", but for this G League team, he does a really good job organizing everything, getting guys the ball in positions where they can succeed, which is really, really important at the G League level. He had 11 assists yesterday in just 24 minutes. A couple of those to Kevin O'Banner, who's probably been the standout from this team in terms of guys who don't have an NBA deal or a 2-way deal right now. He had 29 points yesterday, 11 of 13 shooting, 4 of 5 on threes. He's an interesting name because, first of all, the Raptors signed him on draft night as an undrafted free agent. He was with the program throughout the summer. It's obviously a guy they wanted to get a look at from the jump there. And I don't think there was a ton of belief in scouting circles that the shot would come along at least as quickly as it had. There are some questions about, maybe is he big enough? He's 6'8", which is, plenty big in the NBA, but there's not a perimeter-oriented skill set until this three-point shot came along. He's more of a, if you remember what Justin Champagnie looked like in his Raptors minutes, he has a little bit of that where, yes, he's going to be able to crash the offensive glass a little bit. He's going to be able to, work in transition and as a cutter and things like that. But when you're a little undersized, you have to add that three-point shot for the skill set to scale. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out when we're getting Shareef here. It should be momentarily. We'll connect with Shareef over phone instead of over video here as we pivot. So 9:05 play again Friday at 10:30 in the morning. So we'll surely talk about that on the show because we'll have just come back from we'll have just finished the game when our show starts here. So that 9:05 game on Friday will be the end of the 9:05's G League Showcase Cup season. The standings reset for the final 34 games of the year. The 9:05 are back underway on December 27th. And that's a really nice thing, obviously, because they're 3-12 at this point. You just have to put that behind you, and the standings resetting really allow you to do that. That's a nice boost for head coach Eric Curry. It's nice for these guys like a Justice Winslow who's coming in late, like a Jonte Porter who's coming in late, like a Marquise Noel who has dealt with injuries. And maybe those guys, of course, they wish they could have contributed to a better record than 3-12, but you don't want to start with a team and a situation that is at that level. So the standings reset here is really, really nice. And the only pieces missing for the 9:05 at this point are Javon Freeman-Liberty, who continues to be out with an ankle injury, and Omari Moore, who had a break or a fracture in his hand a couple weeks back and is expected to be out a couple weeks more. So, Javon Freeman-Liberty, I thought was one of the two-way players closest to being Raptors relevant at the start of the G League season, but he's been injured on and off with a nagging ankle injury, so he hasn't been able to pick up steam that much. I would now say that Jonte Porter is probably at the top of that list. The Raptors with a little bit more guard need than front court need, but Porter is probably, in terms of proximity to an NBA skill set, certainly offensively and probably overall. Now, having said that, if Malachi Flynn or Dennis Schroeder were to get hurt, Marquise Noel is the only other point guard on the roster. Will Lou is back with us. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? I'm sorry to leave you. I thought everything was taken care of, but it's all good.
That's all right.
I enjoyed watching you from upstairs on my Sportsnet Out app. I'm serious. This is not a promo. This is how I kept track of what's going on. And I ran downstairs, obviously, as soon as I saw the messages. But we're going to work to get Shareef on the line. But I do appreciate, the fact that the 905 actually have healthy, talented players available for them now, because it's like, I really do want to keep track of it. I love tapping into these games, and I do want to know if there are other pieces in the pipeline for Toronto. So I'm curious to see how they track that progress. I saw one question, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. So certain teams do have their first-round picks who are largely playing the G League at the showcase. The Raptors don't.
Right.
Grady Dick is with the Raptors. He is not down in Orlando. What do you think went into that decision?
I think the Raptors have historically operated that way. They have treated the G League showcase as what the name says. That's supposed to be a showcase for the G League players.
Okay,
now,
so
that's
this is not like a one-time thing.
No, that's not. And that's not a knock to any organization that sends their NBA guys down there. Those guys want to show out for future opportunities, or, maybe you're a trade chip or whatever.
It's literally a showcase.
The Raptors have historically been like, that's for the G League guys. Let's make sure that, because if Grady Dick plays in that game, maybe that's no minutes for Jayshawn Page, who was a really good player during the stretch where they had nobody, and
Fair.
Probably a little on the older end now, but could still maybe get a 2-way or a 10-day look if a team needed that particular skill set. If Grady's down there, maybe MK McCormaker, obviously that's not the same position, but you only have so many minutes to go around. Kevin O'Banner's probably the chief one where, maybe Grady Dick starts in that spot, and instead of a 33-minute game where he scores 29 points really, really efficiently, and any scouts who are there are like, maybe we slept on this guy as a potential shooting development, as a potential energy guy. He gets to show out a little bit more. So that's historically what's gone into those decisions for the Raptors. Obviously, you'd be a little bit more competitive the more NBA people you have down there. Didn't seem to help the Miami Heat and the Sioux Falls Skyforce yesterday, though.
Okay.
By the way, Justin Champagnie was the best player in that game for Sioux Falls, and he's not even on the Heat roster. He started alongside 4 Miami Heat players, and he was the best one.
Look, I actually really like Justin Champagnie. Gotten to know him a little bit. Did an interview with him. It was great to just look up his history. His brother's doing really well as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some level of me that's like, okay, that's objectively funny that he said free me, and he immediately was freed, and now he's looking to be freed. I guess supposed to the G League, but
he's putting up numbers though. Like he's averaging.
He's a talented player,
almost averaging 21 and 10 with 2.6 assists, 2.3 steals, 1.3 blocks.
Yeah,
he's got numbers. Now, the one thing that's going to knock against him is, he's still not hitting the three, which, like I just kind of laid out with Kevin O'Banner, you can be an offensive rebound guy, you can be an energy guy. Justin Champagnie has expanded his self-creation game a little bit, but if you are kind of an undersized power forward type skill set wise, you got to be able to knock down that three. And that's something where, O'Banner doing this even in a small sample has probably opened some eyes.
Yeah. Man, Justin Champagnie almost had that random game winner, which would have been amazing for his Raptors career. I don't know if it would have changed anything tangibly, but it was a game there where he almost, I think it was the Celtics game. But can I ask you about Grady's appearances down to the 905? Because I know a lot of people have been tracking this, and I think all people really look at is the box score. Because let's be real, like a lot of people aren't as tapped into the 905. So what they do have to assess is the box score. And I think for a lot of people, they get a little concerned because he goes down there and he is still putting up lots of shots, but not a lot of makes. What have you taken away from Grady's performances with the 905? Is he doing something differently? Is there something to work on? What are your general observations getting to see him play in an extended environment?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, and I should be clear off the top that the G League, especially his first couple games there when they had no point guards healthy, when they didn't have, a Jonte Porter or a Justice Winslow to be that kind of connector and playmaking big, that's a really tough environment for anyone to drop into, but especially someone who is, not a shooting specialist long term, but right now that's his skill set, right? They're trying to free him off the ball for catch and shoot looks. But if you don't have a point guard to do that, if you don't have a big to set those good screens off ball, that can be tougher. So he had a little bit of a tough time fitting in that way. Having said that, you shoot 29% on threes over 7 games. You shoot 29% on threes over 7 games. And I thought at times there's been hesitation that set in, a lot of pump fake, take one dribble in, and then maybe, contested floater from too far out rather than get into the paint, rather than take that three initially. I was starting to get a little bit encouraged with, hey, he's starting to rebound more. The transition defense, which had been a problem at first, had picked up a little bit. I thought the last game he played with them was arguably his worst game there. So maybe an off night, maybe a step in the wrong direction. I think he'll be back down there before long. He won't be there at the G League Showcase, but who is there at the G League Showcase is Shareef Abdur-Rahim, president of the G League, who joins us now. Shareef, thank you for doing this. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I got to ask first about, obviously, the most important G League call-up this week. Our pal Mark Valena leaving you guys to go to the NBA content side. How big a hit's that?
Mark Valena?
Yes.
No, he's with us in the G League.
Oh, okay. I saw you got a job promotion. The job title's NBA now. I thought maybe he was doing a little less with you guys.
Oh, he did get a promotion. I think we promote him. He's a associate vice president or vice president now of content of all of the G League. But
awesome.
He's still with us.
Okay, great. That's great to hear.
We keeping Mark Valena as a gym. We're keeping him. We're not letting him get away.
All right. So it is the G League Showcase this week. It's down in Orlando. We've had it in Mississauga here before, and it's of course been in Vegas. What are you most looking forward to this week? How do you, this showcase? We talked to Marc Stein, and it's about, GMs meeting up together. I talked to G League people. It's about the scouts being on the ground, and then obviously getting that G League product in front of more eyeballs, both in person and through, G League TV, the new deal you guys have with Tubi. What does this week mean to you? What is front of mind for you this week in Orlando?
Well, it's the first year we're here in Orlando. We have a 4-year partnership here with the Hyatt and the Greater Orlando Sports Commission to bring our showcase here. And like you said, it's been in a number of different places. So, excited to get it started here. We've now had a full day of games and into our second day. Just what Showcase has become kind of this meeting spot of the basketball world. And it's the one time during the year where, I think all of the basketball people and, sports people take notice of the G League. And, I think, the tournament we have here, the Showcase Cup, are, top teams that to this point in our season, competing for the Showcase Cup trophy and $100,000 to our guys. I'm looking forward to who breaks out. This is always an important time with all the GMs and scouts being here to see who will kind of elevate and show their game and get an opportunity. And then just, seeing people, so many people from around the NBA and the basketball world, just seeing folks, that's, always a highlight.
In terms of the Showcase Cup tournament that takes place, so the 8 top-seeded teams, playing in a knockout environment here in Orlando, when the NBA was designing their in-season tournament, how much did they talk to you guys about, hey, what's worked with the G League Cup? What's worked with, you guys resetting the standings after a certain point in the schedule? Were you consulted as they put the in-season tournament together?
Yeah, we work, obviously like with our rules and our format and the league overall, we work really closely with league operations on the NBA side, and that's kind of who worked through the makeup of the NBA in-season tournament. So they was some elements there that were borrowed from us, in the first part of our season, some elements from the WNBA, and then obviously some unique factors that only the NBA can do. But definitely, I think, a lot of, what you see in the G League, our tournament format, our rules, coaches challenge, reset, the shot clock, all those, a lot of that starts with us. That's, being somewhat of a innovation hub for the NBA. A lot of that, starts with us.
Since you've been at the helm in the G League, there have been a lot of items of growth, like the G League Showcase becoming a bigger deal. I mentioned the G League TV deal with Tubi. How much has the creation of the G League Ignite helped generate interest in the G League and get more eyeballs on those players?
Well, I think, people are really excited about young talent in general. Ignite has been a big initiative for us, and, to have the quality of players and talent that, we've had in, years past, Jalen Green and last year, Scoot Henderson. This year, guys like Ron Holland and Matas Buzelis, have been, a Toronto young man, and Leonard Miller last year. So having that, that talent in our league is really exciting for people. So that gets a lot of interest. But, again, I think it's, similar to, if it's a Marquise Noel who has a big following, playing in our league, a Chris Boucher in years past, that quality of talent and for folks to see them in the G League before they make it, really big in the NBA is something that we always celebrate. So, Grady Dick, going over to Mississauga and playing games. I think that's huge for the G League.
This is also the first year that you guys did kind of an international side of the G League draft that's similar to the Ignite, similar to the draft, somewhere in between internationally. How has that been received by the league?
First year, I think it's something that has a lot of interest, a lot of opportunity to grow. We had 10 players this year that submitted their names. I want to say 6 actually went to training camp, and then we had 3 of them that ended up on G League rosters. It's the opportunity, opening up opportunity for international players is something that we want to continue to grow and explore. Just basketball around the globe has become such a priority. We think, in the G League, it should be, a place where players also have an opportunity to grow and develop. You don't see as many young players come here that aren't already connected to an NBA team. Those that are connected to NBA teams obviously come to the G League with their NBA teams to develop. But we think there's even opportunities for young international players to, have a pathway to the NBA through the G League. So we're going to, continue to look at what's the best way to open up those avenues for players. And we think it's, good for basketball, obviously good for the G League. It's been beneficial for those players as well.
In terms of the, more veteran players or even guys coming out of the college system as rookies, Two small changes that the G League's made under your tenure along with the NBA is, one, you guys added a third two-way slot recently. So that, expands the NBA roster, the number of guys that are down there. There was also in the latest collective bargaining agreement an increase in that Exhibit 10 bonus amount. For anyone who doesn't know, the Exhibit 10 bonus is, hey, you come to camp with the team. If you stay with the G League team long enough, you get a bonus that kind of supplements the G League salary. Shareef, between that increased Exhibit 10 amount and the third two-way spot, have you guys noticed an increase in the overall quality of play and talent pool in the G League?
We haven't, and when you talk to NBA personnel who travel abroad and see different leagues around the world, they talk about just how much the talent of the G League has grown, how it compares around the world to other leagues. I think what you see, even, I think two-ways have been coveted. So, obviously that is a major enhancement for us. But what you're seeing, too, is like players that in years past, maybe they get the G League a year, 2 years, with the hope of making the NBA, then they would, probably leave and, go abroad. You're seeing those players stay with us longer with the increase in Exhibit 10 money, as you mentioned, the more opportunities for two ways. You're seeing those players stay within our system longer, which makes the competition, even greater.
So in addition to that, I think those have worked obviously very well when you look at the talent level in the G League. Soon we're going to have a G League affiliate for everyone. The Phoenix Suns are the only team without one now. You guys have also expanded with G League Ignite and the Mexico City expansion. So this is a lot on the player side, on the team side, on the league side. What kind of things are you guys kicking around for? What would be next to continue to grow the G League here?
Well, just continuing to connect the G League to basketball around the world. We now, we have G League teams that play in international competitions, as you mentioned, Mexico City Capitanes, where our players are coming from. We just think it's such a great opportunity, with the G League to be connected and a part of the global landscape of basketball. Obviously, our priority is, preparing players for the NBA, but we also think, we can play a big role in basketball around the world as well.
How do you think we as a basketball media can help with that? I'm someone who, I love going down to 905 games. I try to write those stories. League wide, though, we could probably all do a bit better of a job of that. And I know, these G League Showcase games are being broadcast online. There's the Tubi deal. What can we do on the media side to kind of help the G League keep growing it and make sure these cool stories get told?
I think as much as, I think it's just that. I think it's our stories. I think we just have fantastic stories of people's and their journeys and understanding, our leagues. We're still in this is just the 22nd year of the G League. So we're still in the process of educating people and making people aware of our league. So, as much as we'll take as much coverage and as much promotion as you can stand and give us to just share more and more about the G League. And, we want to keep advancing our league and growing our league to a point where we are available to people, to fans, and to get to know. As I always say, I think our league and, every facet of it is more accessible or should be more accessible. If you come to a Raptor 905 game, most likely you're going to have greater access to the players, to the game, to what's going on than you will if you go to an NBA game. And I think, same with our players and the media interviews and so forth, we should just have, so much more access and understanding of our league. So I think just as much as you can share and talk to people about Raptor 905 and the G League, that's a huge help to us.
All right, Shareef, before I let you go, this is a Canada-wide show. My co-host Alex Wong released a book earlier this year about the creation of the Toronto Raptors. back in 1995. Got to ask you about your experience with the Vancouver Grizzlies as well. You spent 5 seasons in Vancouver. What did you like most? What did you enjoy most about your time with the Grizzlies in Vancouver?
I love the city. Just great city. So many, so much culture, people, food. It was just a great city. I learned so much there. Grew up. I was 18, 19 years old when I went to Vancouver. Great people. I just love the city. One of the great North American cities.
Well, thanks so much, Shareef. We really appreciate you taking the time out, especially during a busy time with G League Showcase. Best of luck with the rest of the showcase and the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
Shareef Abdur-Rahim, president of the G League, and my bad for the question off the top. I thought our boy Mark Valena had gone to the NBA side based on a LinkedIn update. I sent him a congrats and everything. He just got a new title. They're not letting him go at all. Will Lou's back with me now. What's up, man?
We can't have Mark leave. Mark, I'm trying to see you down at Scotiabank Arena, baby. But yeah, no, seriously, it was a great interview. It was awesome to hear you talk to Shareef. Honestly, is this one of those guys where it's like, I know Vancouver obviously wasn't successful quite yet when he was there, and pretty much just in general, that whole franchise was a bit doomed. But for his game in particular, I do wonder if it's like, if you put his game in today's NBA, how that would have looked.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good. He was
really skilled.
Like, I guess it's hard to tell with the 3-point shooting because, like, that was one of the things early in his career was like, oh, he can hit 3, and then he just never took them.
No, in the modern game, he'd take like 5-6 threes a game.
Yeah, I think so. And like at 6'9", at that time it was more like, well, you're a small forward, maybe a power forward.
Yeah.
Now he would, I don't know, maybe be at times a stretchy 5, certainly a pick and pop 4. I think it would be cool. He also, I mentioned earlier the Iron Man stuff he had with Vancouver. So he only missed 3 games over 5 seasons with the Grizzlies. He also, because of the timing of a trade in 2003, 2004, played 85 games in a season.
That's a nice record that no one will ever break.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, you could factor in probably the in-season tournament and the play. Like, if a team plays in-season tournament and play-in, there's a potential to play 3 extra games. So you actually could mathematically get to 85, even though 3 of them wouldn't count as the accounting thing. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting. It's also, can I ask you just a quick follow-up?
Yeah.
Too? It's just like, what's the upcoming deal with Tubi?
Oh, they just a bunch of G League TV games are now shown on Tubi. It's not every game, but there are select ones, and like Raptors 905 fans don't have to worry. You can still watch them online, YouTube, even if they're not on NBA TV Canada.
Right.
They're all available on YouTube because of geo restrictions and stuff. Okay. But yeah, if you have like the Tubi app or whatever,
a lot of people have the Tubi app. So this is going to be really good for the league.
Yeah, there's usually at least a handful of games a week. They've obviously given priority to getting the Ignite games on there and stuff like that if they're not ESPN Plus games. So. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's, again, crazy. Like 3 missed games over 5 seasons and then an 85-game season.
No,
he basically made up the games that he missed in the 5 earlier seasons.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing, too. It's just like, he's – yeah, I mean, I know the Grizzlies is kind of a sad story, really. But, I still feel like a real, like, sense of joy when I walk around just anywhere in Canada, and you will see some Shareef Abdur-Rahim Grizzlies jerseys still to this day.
Yeah, it's an elite throwback.
Yeah, seriously.
Speaking of great gear.
Yeah, wow. That's a great setup because we're back showing off the exclusive Coors Light Chill Fleece again on Raptors game day. And as a reminder, this is an exclusive fleece designed by Joey Golish.
Clearly
founder.
Exclusive. I don't have one.
Yeah, I know you want one, Blake. We are going to use a segment to potentially get you one. But the fleece is designed by Joey Golish, founder and creative director of Mr. Saturday. Yeah, I mean, you've seen me wear outfits twice in a week before, but is this actually one that you would like to see me
Yeah, I mean, this is the first one that is in camo, so that's nice. But also, like, it's reversible, so you can pull off, like you can see in the picture here, or the other day on the show, like, you can flip it around, wear it both ways, so you can get away. Like, first of all, I'm not an outfit tracker. I'm not doing the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing. Yeah, I'm not clocking your outfits.
Right.
Nah, you wear whatever you want, man. We're on TV 2 hours a day. It's fine.
No, you're right.
But yeah, it's good, man. I do think it would be a funny bit if after bad losses you wore the dark side and after wins, you wear the light side.
Hey, Coors Light, well, this could be arranged. Trust me. Call my people. But yeah, I've been styling it in a few ways, reversing it from both sides. Obviously, I love the quality of this too. Like it's warm, but it's like a boxy fit, so it gets that little cool feeling as well, But no, I just think it's all kind of stylish. And this is the thing. This is very eye-catching jacket because we were actually at the game and we saw this one courtside, at the last few Raptors home games. So, today at 5 p.m., get in that line at Union Station Market. There will be a limited quantity for fans to get their hands on. This is your only chance to get a chill fleece. So get down there early, answer a Raptors trivia question, and Joey will be there to size you up and style it for you. Wow, this is incredible. I'd be very happy if I got this. And again, the reverse side is black and white, but it's just a nice fleece, man. Blake, we got to hook you up. That's all.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. It's a long season.
I want to see you, me, and Alex all pull up in the chill fleece for one of these shows. Damn. But we'll take a quick break because we're going to have to talk about the Denver Nuggets after the other side of this break. But I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, William Lou. Continue to be joined by co-host Blake Murphy. Again, great interview. And way to tap dance too, man. That was impressive. That was impressive to see you tap dance and give us all the information on Jontay Porter. But we're actually going to talk about the other brother on this side of things with Adam Mares.
Michael Porter Jr. I thought you were saying Adam Mares was Jontay Porter's brother.
He might be. We never know.
It's been a long day. Adam, what's up, man?
What's up?
What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm not a Porter brother. I wish I was. I would shoot a lot better.
Well, they all have like one bad injury at some points, but they also have every God-given talent on earth when they are healthy, which is great.
So Adam, you're at DNVR Sports and the All City NBA pod with Tim Legler. Man, we messaged a little bit after the Nuggets won the championship last year, and from a media and fan standpoint, how much more chill has this regular season been to you versus regular seasons in the past coming off of the championship?
Well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because you're right that it is more chill. The losses happen or something, an injury happened, and you're just not sweating it. But on the other side, there's almost less excitement. I mean, the Nuggets, to me, it feels like nothing matters. They're above the regular season. I say that kind of in jest because nobody should be above the regular season, but that's kind of how it feels. And so it's a little bit of a weird feeling.
Yeah, I just remember after the Raptors won the championship. This is totally different. This is like if you guys won the championship and Jokic was like, all right,
I'm out of here.
See you. I'm going to New York randomly. But after the Raptors championship, I just remember every time the Raptors would win a game, I'd be like, never underestimate the heart of a champion. It'll be like a random Raptors Sixers game in December or something, So I just hope that you guys are fully enjoying this team. I mean, look, they have had some uneven results. I feel like I've found a way to always tune into when you guys play the Rockets, and somehow the Rockets are like the banana peel for the Denver Nuggets. You guys are 18-10, which is a little bit below last year's pace, especially because you guys started so well last year. But yeah, tell us about the state of the Nuggets right now. What's getting people, I guess, not just excited, but what's getting people through the season beyond the fact that you have an amazing team to look at.
Well, first of all, I believe the Nuggets were 18-10 last year through 28 games. I think they went on a good run right about this time. I think they won 14 of 16. We'll see if Denver does that again. Yeah. The story of the season was that Jamal Murray pulled a hamstring injury in the 9th game of the year and then missed the next, 15 games or so, and he comes back, he gets an ankle injury on his left ankle. He has to miss a couple games. He comes back and he injures his right ankle. So the story has been that Denver has been without Jamal Murray, or without a healthy Jamal Murray, for pretty much the entire season. And then to kind of give a second piece of context, they've played more games than anyone in the NBA up to this point. They played more road games than anyone. So they've had a little bit of an uneven schedule. I think that to be 18-10, given that context, is pretty impressive. And, they're starting to look better and better. When they have their full cast of characters on the court, they've been winning some pretty impressive games and getting impressive wins. And this is really the first stretch where it's been about 4 games in a row where everyone's been healthy. So I expect the Nuggets, like last year, to kind of find a rhythm here in the next month and start to look like one of the contenders again.
So Murray has been back for 6 games now, and he has been ridiculously efficient shooting the ball for someone just coming off of an injury. He's also been playing a much lesser of a playmaker role in those games since he came back. And I wonder, Adam, maybe this is too noisy a sample fresh off of injury. Is that kind of a conscious decision from the Nuggets in reacting to how defenses have started to try to handle the Jokic-Murray dynamic? Or is that, is that something that Jokic and Murray can just find a different level with, that they're just kind of going through the ups and downs?
Well, the exciting thing about the first 9 games before he got hurt was that his playmaking was way up. And of course, last year in the playoffs, he averaged 10 assists in the finals, and his playmaking throughout the playoff run was really impressive because Murray has always been that sort of secondary playmaker. I thought the way he read the court throughout the playoffs, and in particular in that final series where what was required of Denver to beat Miami, yes, they were more talented, but they needed Murray specifically. The Heat kind of made the decision to guard the perimeter and say, make these two guys beat you. And I thought Murray just made a lot of great decisions and read the court as well as I ever saw him. And the first 2-3 weeks of the season before he got hurt this year, he carried that over and he looked like the best playmaker, the best version of himself as a playmaker that we'd seen. So I would say it's probably more the recent small sample size of coming back from injury. But I expect his playmaking to pick up as he gets a little bit more comfortable on the court.
In terms of how defenses have tried to adjust to this Jokic-Murray dynamic, I know there's more to the team than that, but that's got to be, a top 3, if not top 1, 2-man game to control. What have you seen teams try to do against that might be different or new this year?
Well, I think that number one, the idea of making Jokic a scorer, I know it gets laughed at a little bit, but I honestly think it's the best way to try to beat Denver. Is he's going to beat you with scoring if he has to, but he is so much more comfortable getting everybody involved. When Denver's in the 30-plus assists, category in their games, they're usually winning and they're winning comfortably. So if you just force them to say, hey, Yoke's got to take it every time, it just disrupts the rhythm. But I think the one adjustment that teams saw in the playoffs that is actually the right way to guard Denver, if you can do it, is to put somebody on Jokic to try to guard him one-on-one and put your best shot blocker on Aaron Gordon and dare Aaron Gordon in particular to be a spot-up shooter. He loves to out-muscle guys. He loves to play the dunker spot and play big. So if you can move a shot blocker onto him, it takes away a little bit of that rim pressure that he has from the dunker spot, and then it ends up getting him kickouts to the corner, which he can hit. You always hate to concede open shots, but if you're forcing Denver to become a kick out to Aaron Gordon team, you're getting a win. So we saw that last year. The Rui adjustment was putting Anthony Davis in that role. We saw against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Rudy Gobert was not guarding Jokic. He was guarding oftentimes Aaron Gordon. And we've seen that a little bit this year with teams, Oklahoma City just the other day, Chet Holmgren, 9 block shots in the game. He's not on Jokic. He's guarding Aaron Gordon and just being a help side rim protector. So I think that's the strategy of the best way to go at Denver. And I think teams have finally figured that that's one option to throw at them.
Yeah. Wasn't this the adjustment that Michael Malone was like, oh, he was scoffing at this? Is like, oh, you think you found a way to guard Jokic? You think that it's so simple? We just put AD on. I mean, to be fair, the team did sweep the Lakers, which is the funniest part about this. But yeah, I mean,
but it is noteworthy that he was making fun of the exact adjustment that is the best way to guard Denver. Now, I think the thing he was laughing at was, it was called the Rui adjustment. I think Rui is below the threshold of what you need to guard Jokic.
Yeah,
a little bit better than that. But for teams that have it, that if you do have a second big, you can throw out there. So Oklahoma City put Jalen Williams, the big Jalen Williams, not the little one, the big one on Jokic, and allowed Chet Holmgren. That's 2 centers. That's 2 bigs. And that night, Jalen Williams was knocking down his 3-point shot, so it worked out. But anything short of the big Jalen Williams, which Rui is, he's more of a forward. Anything short of that is probably too small, and I think that's what Michael Malone was laughing at.
It's interesting to hear that and to try to figure how the Raptors might play it, Will, because we've seen them put OG on Jokic in the past, and
but Nick Nurse was also quite creative, and I wonder if Darko will do the same.
They have Jakob Poeltl now, which they didn't have in previous meetings with Denver. So the way Adam's laying it out, I could see at least when Jakob is on the bench, OG on Jokic and Scotty Barnes on Gordon in the corner being that help side shot blocker because he's the best shot blocker on the team. But you're probably going to have Poeltl on him to start still, you figure, right?
No, I actually prefer the Nick approach of putting OG on Jokic. I think he's been able to front the post, pick off a couple of entry passes. I think in addition to forcing Jokic to be a scorer and also bringing the help in the same way, limiting his touches will also be kind of key. But hey, listen, it's hard to know what Darko will do because it's a different coach. But I also wanted to flip it to the younger guys because that's another thing with the Nuggets this year. And I saw you tweet out hashtag Project Dynasty. And I was like, what is this? But okay, fine. You know what? Project Dynasty. And I want to ask you about the Nuggets prospects, the younger players, in terms of just their long-term potential towards, let's say, contributing towards a potential hashtag Project Dynasty. I got on the list Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, Jalen Pickett, Christian Brown, and Julian Strawther. I'd love to hear you rank those 5 in terms of just like most promising, most able to contribute, and then also maybe just a little bit about their games in general, because we know who the main Nuggets are. Like, we literally watched you guys win a championship. Who are the next wave?
Well, I think the whole idea of Project Dynasty is Denver has 5 guys that you can lock in. Their starting 5 are just, they're good. They're locked up for a long time, and they can win, but you need guys behind it. So do you go with every year you try to find a new veteran and then you lose them? Jeff Green's gone, then Bruce Brown's gone. You just try to find that every year. Calvin Booth instead says, you know what, let's get some young players, and that'll give us a 3-4 year window with the same core. So that's why we joke about Project Dynasty. But to answer your question, Christian Brown played in the playoffs last year all throughout. Yeah. He played in the finals, and he played at a really high level. So I think you can chalk him up. He's not necessarily an upside play. I think he's just a very solid defensive player who's low mistake on both ends of the court, and he projects to be a good bench player for years to come. But the guy that, to me, is so fascinating is Peyton Watson, who 6'8", 7-foot wingspan. I think he's got like an 8'2" standing reach, which I point that out because he's such a great shot blocker. And some guys, they have the wide wingspan left to right, get their hands in passing lanes, this or that. For whatever reason, Peyton Watson has a lot of vertical length to him. He's super athletic, and when he stands and reaches his arms up, they just go so high. And he blocks shots like a center. I think when you go through the block percentage in the NBA, it's all centers and then Peyton Watson and then a bunch more centers. So he stands out as the shot blocking on-ball defender who has a really great instincts defensively for disrupting plays, staying with guys. And then offensively, his game is a little unique. He's still trying to figure out what it is. He's not a great shooter. He's not a confident shooter, but he handles the ball well. He passes well, and he slashes well. Raw in all of those categories. But to me, he's the one player of all of those that doesn't just project to be what Christian Brown is. Like, okay, can you play him for 12 minutes in a playoff series? He's a guy that it probably will take a few years to fully actualize his potential. But right now, he's a super disruptive defensive player, a la Jaden McDaniels or Herb Jones. And then offensively, there's something there that tells you, okay, he's not going to be like Tybal, who he's always a negative on offense. He might grow into some useful role. So Peyton Watson to me is the guy to watch because he is a fascinating prospect.
That's Grand Rapids Gold basketball, baby. I saw a bunch of Peyton Watson
like
in the G last year. And we got to point out too, look, if we're talking about your long-term fit in Denver, the fact that Peyton Watson stepped up to be a terrific co-star with Nikola Jokic in that Pony Hotel commercial, you got to like the marketing potential there. I didn't see Reggie Jackson or Jamal Murray or Julian Strawther in that commercial.
Yeah, they weren't there, man. You're right. Peyton Watson, he has the $1 million smile. He's good looking. He's charismatic. But you saw him. I'm kind of curious what you think. If you saw him so closely with the Gold last year, I mean, he was a raw prospect, but do you see what I see as this Jaden McDaniels mold type player?
Yeah, I really like him. And we'll obviously have to see if the shot comes along enough to, you mentioned the Aaron Gordon defense. Like, that's going to be a concern with him right now if he's playing minutes either. I thought, what he showed in the G last year was the ability to expand beyond just play finishing. He did a little bit of self-creation. I think he averaged like 3.5 assists a game while he was down there. So honestly, I maybe made this comparison just because they were both in the same organization. But I did kind of see like maybe a bit of a Bruce Brown role for him where, yeah, you're a small 4 or something like that, but you are doing some of those connector things. If you're in the dunker spot, you can find the cutter or the dump off looks and things like that. I just thought, even though he wasn't particularly efficient down there, the ideas he had and the things he was trying to do suggest to me that's a guy who's going to be able to find his role. And you mentioned the cutting. To me, that's always such a good indicator skill of how well you're reading the game and timing and spacing and things like that. A guy who's a good cutter out of the gate, I'm going to have time for developmentally.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And he has really taken Jokic has taken him under his wing. And those guys, I think you joked earlier him being in the commercial, but I actually think something to it. One, they share an agency, but two, there really is something to where I think Jokic sees this is a guy that does something nobody else on our team does, and he's not quite ready for it, but the quickest I can get him ready for it, the quicker we can reach our ceiling. So I think there's a special bond there. And Peyton Watson, I think, is like Aaron Gordon. When Aaron Gordon arrived to Denver, he really saw Jokic and said, what do you need me to cut out of my game? What do you need me to work on? I think if Peyton Watson takes that same approach, he's going to end up being an extremely useful player molded to what Denver's strengths are.
We only have a second left with you here, Adam, but post-championship and with Jokic having 2 MVPs now, the 76ers fans really, really care about Embiid winning the MVP still. Are Nuggets fans a little over it? Like, you got 2 and you got the title. You guys have your consolation trophy?
I think everybody likes to make the argument, right? Who should win it or where do you go? But I got to say, I think that Nuggets fans see themselves in a win-win. You win the MVP this year, that's 3 MVPs. That's legacy building. If you lose it and Joel Embiid grabs it, you better go out there and win the championship. You better not let the Nuggets win back-to-back championships when you stole the MVP, because then it's going to count. You're going to count Jokic as 4 MVPs the way we count Michael Jordan with 8, which, that's why I say it's kind of a win-win for Nuggets fans, whether he wins it or whether he's unfairly taken off the ballot.
Nice. I look forward to this debate because you really can't go wrong. I think last year I ended up leaning towards Embiid, but I don't know, man. Jokic is clearly the better player to me, so I think that also should count for a lot. But Adam, appreciate you and enjoy the game tonight, I guess.
Absolutely, you guys as well. Thanks.
All right.
Adam Mares, DNVR Sports, the All-City NBA pod with Tim Legler. Will, I know you wanted to ask him about potting with Tim Legler, but we kind of ran out of time.
Tim Legler is amazing.
Yeah.
And I would love to get Tim Legler on this program.
You get to do a radio show with Marc Stein once a week. That's
amazing. We get Dennis on the show every week. You're on the show every day. Alex is on the show every other day. Every other segment.
What a drop-off. Tim Legler and Marc Stein, Blake, and Alex. All right.
No, but seriously, we got to get legs on the show.
Yeah, we only got a little bit left here. It's time now for Between the Lines, brought to you by BetRivers. Take a chance. Pretty clear injury reports tonight. Aaron Gordon is probable with a heel thing. Okay. Both teams have a lot of guys down at the G League Showcase. Vlatko Kankar and Christian Koloko remain out. They've been out for both teams. So not a real impact in terms of injury on either side. The Raptors are only 4-point underdogs. The over-under set at 229.5. This is a Denver team, 10th in offense, 11th in defense. And really the only weakness I see in this statistical profile or watching these guys is you can run on them in transition and they don't care to get out in transition. If you can win the transition game, maybe you have a chance, but on both ends in the half court, they're going to destroy you probably. How you feeling Raptors +4?
Man. Look, I can understand and I can appreciate that the Raptors had played the Nuggets well. Last year, there was that infamous game where the Raptors led the whole way, and then they lost it at the end.
Well, there's also the one earlier than that where the Raptors get an assist on the Nuggets championship where the Raptors beat them in Toronto, and it was the 4th loss in a row for Denver, and they finally woke up. They were in that lull.
That was the second game. That was in Toronto, and the Raptors beat them in that one. But the first one, the Raptors led the whole entire way. They played a lot of pick and roll from Fred into to Jakob, and Jakob had a great game too. But then eventually their offense died down, and there was some questionable officiating. That was the game where Scott Foster ejected Scotty Barnes, I believe, in the 4th quarter of that one late. So that game was winnable, and then they actually won the return game. But, honestly, the Nuggets are just such a clearly better basketball team than the Raptors right now. And even if you say the Raptors have the personnel, or maybe they have the schemes left over from last year to make it tough on them, I kind of doubt it, man. The Nuggets are just in a very, very different tier. So I'm definitely backing the Nuggets on this one. But my biggest thing is just what's Darko going to do? You got to be very creative tactically to stop a great player like Jokic and also a great 2-man pairing. So that was Between the Lines, brought to you by BetRivers. Take a chance. And that does it for us today. I've been your host, Walu. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, rate, review the show. Thanks once again to Marc Stein, Shareef Abdur-Rahim, Adam Mares, producer and co-host Alex Wong. Thanks for nothing, buddy. Blake Murphy, our board producer, Derek Brandale, Jennifer Rolnick, David Sis, Jared Manatad. We'll see you tomorrow.